Okay, so hello everybody. My name's Andrea Curr and this is Catherine Bryant, and we both work here in public library services here at the State Library. My job is to coordinate the Drug Info service, and Catherine coordinates Find Legal Answers. Today we're going to talk to you about these two unique services, which are both delivered in partnership with public libraries, and about how starting a reference conversation can be used to provide information about the law, drugs and alcohol to your community. These conversations are aimed at increasing knowledge and empowering people. We're going to talk about the tools, programs and opportunities to start these conversations. Find Legal Answers was established in 1990. Back then it was known as LEAC, or the Legal Information Access Centre, with the name changing to Find Legal Answers in 2008. Find Legal Answers was established to provide access to legal information for the New South Wales community. Prior to this, there was no public access to legal information outside of an academic setting, such as a university library. Similarly, Drug Info, which back then some of you might know was known as Dial and then Drug Info at your library, was established to provide drug and alcohol information in a similar fashion. Both services have at their core a reference collection, a small collection of plain English books and pamphlets that are current, authoritative and relevant to community need. Both services also have dedicated websites to provide information and support service delivery. The Find Legal Answers website can be used to find legal information by browsing or searching. All of the toolkit books can be found here, as well as links to free legal advice and assistance, and all of the content has been selected by LEAC staff. The Drug Info website has the A to Z of drugs, information about drugs and the law and where to get help. We've also developed separate sections on the State Library website designed for public library staff. This has information about delivering the services in your library and includes programs, collection management information and order forms for collateral. But we also both publish information. Where we have identified information gaps, we've gone out and published high quality material. For example, the Quick Guide to Drugs and Alcohol, the book Neighbours and the Law, all of the Hot Topics collection, and we're currently working on a new edition of Rest Assured. These collections and websites are ideally suited for reference work. All of these questions can be answered using pamphlets, toolkit books, or the Find Legal Answers or Drug Info websites. These resources help people find legal or health information to answer a specific question at a specific time. As well as providing the collection and websites, we deliver training for public library staff here at the State Library once a year and throughout the year in different public libraries. These workshops have always been hands-on with discovery and discussion of this reference material at the core. The training is designed to build your confidence to answer legal, drug and alcohol information inquiries, and importantly, it empowers you to actively promote and make these available in different ways. As you can see from the participants' comments, the training builds awareness, knowledge and understanding. Partnerships are also important to both services. Find Legal Answers works with a range of legal experts such as Legal Aid New South Wales and community legal centres. We work together to create publications and community education programs. Drug Info works closely with New South Wales Health and Community Drug Action Teams, also known as CDATs. So the traditional view of reference work has always centred around the idea of buildings, collections and access to those. Libraries have been built and promoted as physical spaces where people have access to books and databases containing information, and library staff to assist people to find the right piece of information for their question. As we've just outlined, the Find Legal Answers and Drug Info resources can be used to support this reference work. You all have these collections in your libraries and they can be used to answer questions. However, providing access to legal and drug and alcohol information goes beyond the physical or virtual collections. The information in your Find Legal Answers and Drug Info reference collections can also be used to facilitate knowledge. You can use the collections and resources to engage your communities with legal and health information and empower them to use this knowledge to make life choices. So how does this work in practice? Well, we're now going to do a little bit of practical reference work. And for this, I require the participation of 6 people from the audience. So if first of all, I'm going to ask if 6 people will come forward. You know you want to.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm going to pick people out by where they're sitting. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. You get a prize at the end.
Oh, you're going to do only 2 spaces. I'm going to get this totally wrong.
Thank you very much.
We've got to pour some drinks.
2 more.
Oh, it's up to
I'm generous.
Okay, then Kathy, I think you just volunteered. You've got to
We can't.
another early starter. I figured those. This is horrible taking no pity on those who got up really, really early.
So we'll probably be really grateful that this isn't alcohol.
I'm going to switch to this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a little demonstration of reference material in a different way. So we're going to do what's known as the standard drink pouring challenge. And what I'm going to do is, Catherine's going to give out a glass to everybody, a plastic cup. And each of those cups has the name of an alcoholic beverage on it. And what we're going to do is ask the participants to pour what they think is a standard drink. Now, who here in the audience has heard of standard drinks? Yes. See, we're working already. And one of the reasons, apart from the work that we do through Drug Info, is that all packaged products of alcohol in Australia, under the law, and this is where we cross over with fine legal answers, have to provide a little symbol on it that has standard drinks. But how do people relate that to their life, and can they work out what actually one standard drink is? Because on the bottles, the government said you have to write that on it, but how do we know what 8.3 turns into 1 for that particular beverage? And they can vary, so a bottle could have 1.4, it can have up to 22 standard drinks in it. So how do we translate that? And how can we use reference material to help people's understanding? So, does anyone know what the definition of a standard drink is? What makes a standard drink a standard drink? Yes. So it's grams, it's 10 grams of alcohol. So all of these drinks have 10 grams of alcohol in it. Okay. The cup that you have is a 425 ml cup, which is a schooner glass in New South Wales. If you're mathematically minded, you could work out it in your head possibly. And I only say this because once I did this in front of a whole range of school students, and one of the boys worked it out and said, well, that's easy. It's divided by this. So people, and the reason I say this is people learn differently or think about things differently. So we're going to show how we, how we use different techniques to do that. So Catherine's got a jug of water, and what I want you to do is pour what you think is one standard drink of that drink that you've got listed on your glass into that glass.
Champagne first. I know what it is.
She's done this a lot.
It's been a hard day.
You have to make allowances for the ice.
No, it's without ice. This is neat.
I've got wine.
The pouring standard drink, not one that you have at home.
Chewy in the subject.
Question.
I've got tequila.
I've got light beer.
It's more suitable for this time of day.
And last but not least,
I've got heavy beer.
so full strength beer.
That's another black.
Nice green beer.
Touch of hot. Probably a sheep's there.
Catherine's going to find some drinks we prepared earlier.
We have some. Got the light one?
Yeah.
Is it?
Is it? Sort those two. Why? Yes.
This must be the dark.
Okay, so if you want to hold the drink with the resin cup next to your drink, is anyone thinking that they might have poured something slightly correctly?
No.
And I'm going to talk about the resin kit in a minute, but if we poured it into glasses that we normally pour it into, it possibly could have given you. Do you feel it might have given you more information about it if you poured it, say, a wine into wine glass?
Yeah.
Is it hard to pour into a glass that's like not the regular glass?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. No, because that's a new glass. Yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see how accurately you pour the standard drink by using our Alco cup, which is this same plastic cup of schooner glass, but it's got the standard drinks marked on it. So the first one is champagne. So champagne, we say, yeah. So how much have you poured? You reckon?
I don't know. How many mils is it meant to be?
Champagne is meant to be 100 mils.
That's that line there. So
you've underpoured that. So who's got wine? Michelle. Okay, let's have a look at wine. Because wine, we say standard drink is 12%, even though wine obviously can be different percentages, but just a standard drink is based on 12%.
So it's the same measurement.
So it's the same measurement, even though they're poured into different glasses.
Whoa! So where my thumb is the standard drink.
Who here has seen a glass that has a line on it in a pub or a club? Okay, so this one here has one on it. You can't see it, but I'll point it out. Who thinks it's a standard drink line?
That's what it was.
Yes. And that's right. And why would it be 150 mils and not 100 mils on a glass?
So they can divide it.
Yeah, it's all about money. So pubs and clubs, what is their business? They sell alcohol. They don't want to waste any of it. And if somebody's free pouring, they're going to pour all sorts of things. It's a serving line. So this glass has one about here on it to demonstrate that. So that's things that people might think. You might, like you said, you thought about that it was before, but it's not necessarily. So if you were counting drinks for any variety of reasons, you're really having 1.5 drinks, standard drinks, and not one.
In fact,
when we were in a library, recently one of the staff members said that one of their staff members had actually been done for drink driving because they were relying on that standard line. They thought they'd had maybe 3 standard drinks over the period of time, and in fact they would have been 5. So unfortunately, library staff members can get involved with the law just like anybody else, and yeah, because they were relying on that line as a standard drink and it wasn't.
won't say which one.
Okay, next we'll go with the spirits, I think. So we've got Scotch and tequila, and one is, you can see the picture up here, one is in a shot glass and one's in a tumbler.
A bit over. So that's the line. Oh, no, pretty good. Just over.
So spirits are generally 40%, so that makes them 30 mils, which is, if you're ever wanting to measure one, a shot glass. So it's 30 mils. So how do we go with tequila?
Oh. Like a generous one. Right. What's new? Probably more generous than the Scotch.
Okay, so it's actually really hard to, it's very hard to pre-pour a spirit. I didn't ask you at the beginning, has anyone done an RSA course from here? You've done one, so did you sort of be thinking about what it was?
But it's easier when they've got the nozzle pourer because they're pouring such a small amount.
Yeah, they are pouring a small amount, and in fact, thinking back to why pubs and clubs, they use the nozzle pourers, or they use what's called an optic to measure it. because if you think back, what are they doing? They're selling alcohol. They don't want to give you any more because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And in fact, they have people from fair trading who go around and test them to make sure they're not ripping you off. So generally in a pub or a club, you're going to get a spirit, 30 mils, a standard drink of a spirit. But if you're ever wanting to measure at home, just get a shot glass. It's 30 mils. It's quite easy to do. So last but not least, we have beer. So here we have the beers. They're the second from the left. And one is a full-strength beer and one is a light beer. Yes. And so how do we go with pouring these?
Which one's the light beer?
That's the light.
Quite generous. It's basically meant to be the top of the glass. So
So again, beer can vary with its percentages, but in general we say it's a schooner of light beer, whereas a heavy beer is a midi. So. Okay. And for some reason, we've done this a lot. People tend to overpour spirits because it's hard, overpour wine and underpour beer, and I don't know why. I think there's some research that we could do into that because we've done this several times. So thank you to my participants. Catherine's got in the black bag a little present for you. And so... Is it alcohol? No. Your very own alcohol cup, so you can go and practice at home on your mates. Yes. Thank you. So thank our participants here. Okay, so who in the audience has learned something new today or had something explained further that you didn't know? People learned a little something? Okay, so what we did here, and I'm just going to switch back to the other microphone. So what we did here was what we call a reference activity. It didn't start with a reference question because, but by the end of the activity, we obtained a greater understanding of what constitutes a standard drink and why it's important to know this. So how does this differ from traditional reference? This book in your reference collection has the same information that we just learned. You all have this book in your collections, but I actually imagine it's rarely used, despite the wealth of information it contains. I'm probably the only person that's actually read it, because it's a government report. The book contains the definitions of standard drinks as well as information on reducing risk from alcohol harm and the importance of doing this. And so what DrugInfo has done is we've developed a program which has taken the essential information from this book and made it real and relevant to people. And this is what is known as the Know Your Standards program. And so the aim of the Know Your Standards program is to build awareness of standard drinks, the Australian Alcohol Guidelines, which is around reducing risk from alcohol harm, and approaches and strategies for reducing risks associated with alcohol and drinking. It provides people with knowledge and tools about standard drinks to help them then make informed decisions and choices about drinking. So central to the program is the resin kit, which we've just used, and each library service in New South Wales has been provided with one of these kits. And the aim of the kit is to increase people's knowledge of standard drinks. And the way the kit does this is by introducing clients or people to different strengths of alcohol beverages and visually demonstrating the differences in what constitutes a standard drink for commonly used alcoholic beverages. As a basic resource, the resin kit is also a conversation starter or a prompt for people to find out about standard drinks. And even if it's just a prompt as for people to say, well, what's a beer doing in a library? And then asking about it, asking you, well, what's a beer doing in a library? It's not necessarily the place that people expect to find that information. Library staff can also use the resin kit to engage people with interactive activities to increase sustainable learning regarding alcohol and build knowledge and awareness of standard drinks. And this is an activity that happened in Narromine Library during Youth Week. And these activities also act as a conversation starter about issues around alcohol. So you would have noticed that when we were doing the activity up here, we were talking about different issues, and people, even if it's like, I didn't know that that was a stronger drink, or what are pubs and clubs, that kind of thing, and people tend to talk around those things themselves. So the resin kit's also supported by print resources that are held in public libraries, such as the pocket guides, postcards, and information on our website. And these print resources then reinforce learning concepts around standard drinks. So how do libraries implement the Know Your Standards program at a local level? The program's been used by libraries to incorporate into everyday reference work. This can be from putting together simple displays through to incorporating the resin kit display on the reference desk. For example, both Bankstown and Narrandera libraries have experimented with putting their resin kit on display at the reference or circulation desk. By placing the kit on the desk, it invites questions from library users about the kit and can open up conversations about alcohol, which is one of the aims of the program, which is to provide discussion points around alcohol issues. Library staff can then provide further information about reducing alcohol harm with supplementary materials such as the New South Wales Health pamphlets. Library displays are also a great opportunity to highlight the kit and associated materials. You could have standalone displays, such as the one in the bottom right-hand corner, about alcohol or drug use, or the kit can be incorporated into displays for other things, such as Seniors Week, Youth Week, or really anything that takes your fancy. So as you all know, another way of creating knowledge in the community is through public programs. Public library programs are an integral part of drug info services. Programming around drug and alcohol harms and reduction are a valuable form of community outreach, serving community needs while increasing visibility for the drug info service and the role of public libraries in providing health information. So a recent example of an innovative and successful public programming was the recent Burwood Bar and Beats mocktail event offered by Burwood Library, and I know Kerry Ann's here today, as part of their council's Youth Week program. And so this event consisted of a pop-up library providing drug and alcohol information, a bar, very hipster-like bar, providing free mocktails and promoting the literary mocktail resources, a beer goggle activity highlighting the harms and risks associated with alcohol use, and a Know Your Standards drink challenge. The local police were in attendance to assist, together with members of the Burwood Youth Advisory Group. And this event was highly successful, with over 600 mocktails served and around 300 people participating in the activities. And by providing this range of activities, library staff were able to encourage attendees to learn about a broad range of health messages around alcohol consumption and harm reduction. And this event reached many more people in just one afternoon than could ever be reached by that reference book that I showed you at the beginning. And this is just one example of the many events and activities that are developed and delivered by public libraries each year that build this knowledge around alcohol. So why is the work that you do through Drug Info important? Although most Australians have never used illicit drugs, the use of both legal and illicit drugs is recognised in Australia as a major health problem and one that has wider social and economic costs. Drug use has consequences for individuals, for families, and for your communities. The health, safety and wellbeing impacts can include such things as addiction and illness, family breakdown, financial insecurity and homelessness, and just everyday things such as road accidents, assaults, injuries and fatalities. In New South Wales, 1 in 5 deaths on the road is caused by alcohol. Building knowledge and awareness in the community through drug and alcohol information services is part of what's called primary prevention, which aims to prevent drug or alcohol problems by helping people either avoid drug use, delay or reduce drug and alcohol use, or avoid use that's likely to cause harm. The information that we provide through the Drug Info service in public library is part of primary prevention and contributes to the national policy of harm minimisation. So that's why it's important for you guys to do all this work. And so now I'm going to pass on to Catherine, who's going to talk to you about legal information.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Andrea. As Andrea said, I'm now going to talk about why it's important to start a conversation about the law with your community. When you think about it, almost all aspects of our lives, those of our communities, are governed by laws. So whether you're building a new fence, getting married, posting a letter, enrolling a child in school, travelling on a train, getting a driver's licence, writing a will, all of these everyday things are regulated by laws. Just this morning, I said goodbye to my husband, Marriage Act. I sent my child off to school, Education Act. I walked to the station and caught a train. I couldn't tell you how many pieces of legislation govern my train travel. I'm not allowed to spit on the train. That's good to hear, isn't it? My train driver has to have appropriate qualifications. There's all sorts of rules about walking here, littering, all that sort of stuff. Walking into this room, I work here, but you're all visitors here for work. We're all covered by workplace, whatever it's called these days, the WorkSafe Health Act. So that's the number of pieces of legislation I've mentioned already. Most of us don't need to know that. You don't really need to know that the Education Act says you have to send your child to school between the ages of 16 and whatever it is, 17, because most of us will just send our children to school because that's what we do in society. But sometimes you do need to know. Sometimes people do come in conflict with the law, or sometimes people want to find out what the law actually says. And so that means that at any time, any members of your community might need information about the law to help them deal with these everyday issues. But what is a legal issue? If you look at some of the questions here, some of them are a bit obvious, obviously legal issues, but some of them aren't. All of these questions are everyday issues that involve a legal process. So something like, do I have to register my cat? Well, you probably all know that because you all work in councils. But yes, under the Companion Animals Act, you do. You are supposed to register your cat and you can be fined if you don't. How do I get a new fence? Generally, I don't know the stats, but let's just say 80% of the time it works fine. You decide you want a new fence. This is close to my heart because I'm going to have to do this soon. You talk to your neighbour. Hopefully you come to an agreement, you get your 3 quotes, you'd agree to pay for the least, the whatever one you want, it all goes fine. But in a small percentage of times, it doesn't work that way. Your neighbour refuses to speak to you, or your neighbour wants a really big fence and you're happy you don't want that, you want a smaller, cheaper one. If that happens, there are strict legal procedures you have to follow. It's under the Dividing Fences Act. You don't necessarily have to know that, but there are procedures you have to follow. It's become a legal issue, even though it's a problem between 2 neighbours. In many ways, it's just a neighbourhood issue because you've got an annoying neighbour, but it's still a legal issue. How do I get the landlord to fix the mould in my bathroom? That might be a legal issue. It could be your fault because you never open the window. It could be the landlord's fault because they haven't provided you with an extractor fan. They're supposed to provide a livable accommodation for you to live in under the terms of your residential tenancies lease. So that could become a legal issue. One of you might end up taking the other one to the NCAT, the Civil and Administrative Tribunal. That sounds a bit scary. It's a legal procedure. So all of these things, which are everyday issues, can be experienced by any of us at any time, and sometimes don't sound like legal inquiries, even though they are. How many people in this room is a lawyer? Anybody studied law, not practicing anymore? Oh, there you go, there's one, that's great. And often there is. Librarians, on the whole, aren't lawyers. So why would someone go to the library with their legal question? A study by the New South Wales Law and Justice Foundation showed that 50% of people with a legal problem do not seek any sort of help. So they just live with it. I don't quite know what they do with it. They maybe just go to jail or they just don't get any sort of help at all. Of those who did seek legal assistance, only 12% of people consulted a lawyer. The remaining people sought help from places like the internet, friends, great, friends are probably really useful, especially if they've got a lot of legal training, like most of my friends, government agencies, including local councils, so not necessarily the library, but maybe the desk, professionals such as their doctor, they go along to the doctor and ask them about their legal inquiry at the same time, because they think, probably because they think they know they're, university educated, trust them, rely on them, but they're not lawyers. They might go to a community group, or they might ask their boss, their employer. So the study showed that people go to all sorts of places to access legal information and assistance. And public libraries already provide information to their communities on a vast range of topics, from gardening to school assignments to all sorts of things, and are very well placed to also provide legal information. And providing legal information is a valuable service. By providing information, we're not providing second-hand advice or weak advice or bad advice. We don't provide advice at all. We provide information. And that information is a really valuable tool and can be used by that client to help them solve their problem. I'm not saying don't go to a lawyer. You might give your what do you call them, library member, your community member, your client, your customer, you might give them some really good information from a book, and they might think, gosh, I better still go to a lawyer. But what we've done with that information is we've given them the information to make that decision. We've given them the tool to help them with their inquiry. So how do we help our community find answers to their legal needs? We can, of course, wait. They come in, they ask us a question, and we answer that question using the resources in the Find Legal Answers toolkit or going online to the Find Legal Answers website. How many of you know where your toolkit is in your library? I want to see every hand up. Those of you that don't, go and have a look. Thank you. Or look online and make sure you know where the website is. Make sure you know that the website is available via your council or state, your library website. That's something I'd really like to encourage you all to do. Make sure you can find it, as we were talking about before, which I noticed was there. Make sure you can find Legal Answers and Drug Info on your library website, under e-resources or under helpful websites, wherever you want to put it. Make it clear. I can send you a button. I can send you the words to use. But what happens if your clients don't ask a question? And people often say that, oh, we never get asked questions about this. Not many of you say that, but sometimes you think, gosh, that toolkit's sitting there, it's never used. What happens if they don't ask a question? Does that mean we just ignore it? One example of something I thought which was quite handy, which is good, in Blacktown Library. They've got a high traffic area on the first floor between the reference and technology areas. And because of this high traffic, the area was chosen for where they decided to display the Find Legal Answers toolkit, the other legal books they've got in their Law Books for Libraries collection and Hot Topics, and also some legal pamphlets. It was an ideal location for browsing, and the toolkit design with the outward-facing book lends itself to this space. So because it was a high-traffic area, people were walking from one place to another, they saw the toolkit. They may not have come into the library thinking, I need to find out about wills. They may have seen the book on their way past. And if that's happened, they don't have to ask anyone, they've just found the information. Kempsey Library did something similar for Law Week a few years ago. It was a very simple thing they did. Every day during Law Week, they featured one toolkit title per day, a different one, on their circulation desk. So a really simple but effective idea which prompted conversations about the book and the legal subject it covers. People were coming to the desk with their fiction or whatever else they wanted to borrow and noticed the law handbook sitting on the desk. That would have just promoted a conversation. That person might have thought, oh yeah, that's right, I needed to look that up and look at the information. Once again, they've come and they've found information in the library that they didn't come in to ask. They wouldn't have asked that question. Another approach you can take is to change the position of your legal material to suit your community. Once again, Blacktown. They conducted an audit of their legal brochures and booklets and assessed the display locations in all 5 of their locations. At their main library, which is the Max Weber Library, they did a review of the ground floor display spaces, and this led to a more targeted approach in the placement of stands and legal brochures. So they placed pamphlets and fact sheets about wills, advocacy and housing near their adult fiction and large print resources, which is what's happened on the slide. They put information about immigration and housing and information in community languages near their multicultural resource area. They had information about housing, police powers, drug info, youth and community justice was put in their young adult area. So rather than just having legal brochures out the front of the library in one spot, they moved them around to suit various different groups. They also put Legal Aid's series of booklets called Keeping Your Child Safe. They were placed in the children's area. Now, we don't usually put legal pamphlets written for adults in the kids area, but when there are children in your children's area, there are generally parents with them. And so, of course, those people didn't go in there looking for legal information, but they could find it if they wanted to, because it's in the area that they are at in the library. Simply by thinking about the location of your drug or alcohol resources can have an impact on their use and facilitate knowledge creation. For example, as I said before, a library user browsing the large print collection at Blacktown may pick up a book such as Speaking for Myself and read about power of attorney, gaining knowledge of the area of law that he didn't visit the library to find. And as Andrea stated earlier, another way of creating knowledge in the community is through public programs. Now, this week is Law Week. Who this week has done or is about to do an event? Oh, that's quite a good show of hands, thank you. And so many libraries take the opportunity to present events and programs over this week. Andrea and I visited Gordon Library last week. That's not where the person had the problem with the the drink driving, I have to say. And while we were there, we saw this Law Week event advertised. And I know we just happened to be there. That's why I took this photo. It's just one of the many events which have been organised for this week. So I'm sure this event's being replicated by many of you. But what's good about this event is it's being tailored to suit a particular group in the community, older people, very popular sort of group to target, and obviously it's at a time suitable for them to attend. It's 10:30 in the morning, which is based on that community. That's when those clients go to the library. It's also got some free information, so people can take it away with them. They might hear the speaker and also take away a pamphlet. It's a partnership with the local legal aid office. So it's not a legal aid person from here that's gone to do that talk. It's actually from someone from their closest legal aid office. And it also promotes the legal information available in the library. So many of the people who attend this event may not have realised in the past that the library's got excellent plain English books available on wills and estates and housing. And following this talk, and armed with some knowledge, the participants might have more questions about wills and power of attorney, and now they know that they can actually go to the library to get that information. Campsie, not Kempsey, but Campsie this time, sent this photo through just yesterday. They partnered with their local Centrelink office to give a talk about knowing your pension. Having a talk about pensions is a great topic for Law Week, and it's also one of those topics you may not think about as being a legal inquiry. Pensions, very popular, a lot of people get them, various ones, age pension or whatever they're called these days. It's a legal inquiry, there are legal requirements people have to go to, there are very strict ways that Centrelink enforces who they give those things to. Having a talk about that is providing knowledge and information to the community about a legal issue. 10 minutes before the talk from the legal expert, the person from Centrelink, Campsie Library showed the participants the legal resources available in the library. They did a little demo. They also gave away show bags, provided by us, with information and promotional material. After the talk, I'm making it up here, but maybe, I'm hoping, one of the participants might have done some more reading, perhaps reading the chapter on pensions and allowances from the Law Handbook, or checking the information available via the Find Legal Answers website. Before they attended that talk, they may not have had any idea that that information was available. And by planning a talk and providing legal resources, Campsie Library met the information needs of the participants, all without anybody approaching the desk and asking them a question. Earlier we mentioned the importance of partnerships to find legal answers and drug info. This year for Law Week, we partnered with Legal Aid to present Pianoforte. And I think somebody in this room, have you done Pianoforte? Yes.
We did it yesterday.
Okay, yeah, I think quite a few people might have done it yesterday. Yeah. Did it go well? Yes. No, good. So for those of you that don't know, Pianoforte is actually, it's a play, it's actually from Queensland. So it was a play done on stage, a three-hander. We had a person playing an older lady who was obviously going through some sort of, I think she has an injury or something. And then her grandchild and his wife sort of, not really deliberately, but basically they were abusing her financially, trying to take her money. There's a bit of pressure from the wife because they want to get a mortgage and all this sort of stuff. She ends up in hospital. The guy gets power of attorney and takes her money. So it's a film about elder financial abuse. That film has been videoed and is screened at these presentations, and it's followed by a panel discussion. A panel discussion of expert legal speakers. So agencies involved depend on the community and where the people have gone and the availability of people, but generally someone from Legal Aid attends, maybe the Seniors' Rights Service, maybe a local community service provider, and sometimes even health professionals. And they, of course, obviously deal with questions from the floor, and I think probably a fair number of questions were asked. So 17 libraries are going to be presenting the program this year, 12 this week alone, so that's been quite popular. So once again, it's a combination of partnerships, legal expertise, and the availability of legal resources, which has proven very successful in creating knowledge in the community. And this is something we're trying to do more. We're trying to work with Legal Aid. We did a different program last year just to make it easier for you to arrange Law Week events. But also because Legal Aid know what issues the communities are facing, it's really good for us to be able to work with them, and then we work with you. So hopefully it's a sort of three-way partnership that works really well. But not everything's about Law Week. You don't have to wait till Law Week to give your clients access to legal information. Let's Talk Legal. Somebody recognise that? Yes, there you go. Let's Talk Legal is a collaborative project between Macarthur Legal Centre. Is it still going, by the way? You did some more this year? Yeah. So I've got the old poster. I should have updated. Should have asked you. So it's. Sorry, 28 different topics.
No, 28.
Oh, okay. So what it is, it's a collaborative project between the Campbelltown Library and the MacArthur Legal Centre, which is the local community legal centre. And they do a series of legal talks presented by lawyers from the MacArthur Legal Centre, and they provide the community with free access to free legal advice and information. I said free access for us, didn't I? So topics covered last year include elder law, a free legal advice clinic for young adults, debt and fines, wills, and a talk for carers about legal issues for people with disabilities and mental health problems. Anything new, interesting that you offered this year? Okay, HSC legal studies, very perennially important. I imagine wills, seniors, all that sort of stuff continues to be a popular topic. Yeah. And it also provides the library the opportunity to promote the fact that the library is a good place to go and that it's got quality legal information in it. And so what each of these programs illustrates is that libraries are going beyond the collections. They're not just having their toolkit sitting there passively and their website available for people to use. They're allowing their clients to gain knowledge about the law. Of course, they're using those resources. They're looking at, they're going online, hopefully. Maybe they're looking at a book in the toolkit, but they're also gaining knowledge in a service provided by their local library. So as I've just said, probably too many times, providing a reference service can go beyond questions and answers. Today, we started the reference conversation about law, drugs and alcohol. So armed with the knowledge now of what constitutes a standard drink, and that a mouldy bathroom in a rented house is a legal question rather than a home decorating question, we hope you will continue these conversations with your community. And we help you to do this by providing the reference materials at the core of both services. We send you 2 free copies of the legal toolkit, for example, and then as part of our partnership with you, you buy the extra copies for your branches. We provide the online information or the website. We provide promotional material, and we provide campaigns such as Know Your Standards to support your events and programs. And of course, we provide training for public library staff. So in a minute, we're going to continue the reference conversation over lunch, where we're going to be serving the Drug Info Literary Mocktails. I know many of you have done this as part of your programming, but we've decided we're going to have a go today. But I just wanted to also conclude with please keep in touch. We are here to support you. So feel free to contact me or Andrea or Philippa. I didn't put her name up there, but she's in sort of managing both of the services as well. You can contact with us with questions about either service. If you've got a legal inquiry, you're not quite sure where to go, feel free to contact me. If you just wanted to find out what's happening with your collection, have you got the right information? What hot topics are you supposed to have? Any of that sort of question, feel free to contact us. And also, please feel free to contact us if you'd like to see if we can come out to your library and do some training. So thank you very much. And if you've got any questions, Andrea's going to come up here and help me answer them. So thank you. No, it isn't. You all know us so well.
Do we have questions? Okay.
You had a stat on 50% of Australians not getting any legal aid. Do we have any stats on the wider world, like the Americans are quite litigious and tend to use lawyers quite a bit?
No, but being a librarian, I could find one.
Yeah.
I think that was
Okay, Philippa said, because we work with the Law and Justice Foundation who conducted that study quite closely, and we have meetings with them and sort of find out what they're doing. Philippa actually thinks that's a pretty unique study because it's very, very difficult to do. The last time they did it, I think they did telephone. This time, because people never answer their phones, I never do, they're having to redo the entire methodology. So I think they're going to be trying to do an online survey. So it's actually a very, very difficult bit of research. And because, of course, America being so large and having so many different states like we do, that's a New South Wales study. So, I mean, I haven't done the research, but I don't know whether another study like that has been done. But I really imagine it'll be much the same because of lack of access to, I mean, people do go to lawyers in America, of course they do. But I can only think it's going to be a similar number because a lot of people can't afford them. And of course, they've got legal aid over there. They've got various versions of legal aid and community legal services like we do. But I can't imagine everyone who's got a legal inquiry is going to go find a lawyer. And sometimes you don't need a lawyer. A lot of the time, getting a new fence, it's a pretty bad situation if you need a lawyer. It's still a legal inquiry. But a lot of legal inquiries can be resolved without having to get that sort of legal advice. You can actually use the information available in various places, including your library, to answer it.
One of the things that wasn't in that study is how many people actually go to the public library to answer their question, and I think that would be something.
Yeah, I think it would be.
And something that we could do quite easily. And I just wanted to mention, it's not really a question, but I've been asked 3 times about fence. And I have actually used the Neighbours in the Law
there you go.
for that. So thank you for that.
That's good.
Particular page.
And with the publishing, it's interesting. We did produce those books because there was a gap in the market. So drugs, the quick guide to drugs and alcohol, there is just no other book written about Australia, because there's a lot of drug information out there. If you Google marijuana, you're going to find all sorts of information. The beauty of our websites, and of course, you found information online. You, being trained professionals, know what a good site is. You're going to look at a government site. You're going to look at an Australian site. But a lot of people don't know that, which is why we produce the website. Of course, we only link to those trusted sources. All the books published about drugs, or most of them, often are American, which is why we produced a quick guide. Same with Neighbours. There's a chapter in the law handbook, but there wasn't an actual book. So that's why we commissioned that book and produced it.
Any more questions? Do we have any questions from anybody following? No? Send them through, tweet them at us. Thank you both, to Catherine and Andrea, very much for that practical demonstration, and as well as the wealth of information that Fine Legal Answers and Drug Info provides for us every single day. Thank you. It's now time for lunch. I believe we're breaking until 1:10. I grab my... Yes. So lunch is from 12:20 until 1:10, when we will recongregate here in this room. Lunch, of course, is next door. If you go through this door here and then go into the room behind us, it's there. Yep, it'll be there available. If you have particular dietary requirements, there will be plates for vegetarian set aside. Okay? Yes, and a short note from Ellen.
Sorry, vegetarian is part of the general catering. If you're gluten and dairy intolerant, you are also today vegetarian, because we are combining things, but not all vegetarian is gluten and dairy free. It will be in a separately labelled area. And I forgot to screen share again. I am so sorry. I'm failing on screen sharing today. My apologies.